Welcome back. We're here to do your star sign month by month. We cover it. And for those of you that are new, a very warm welcome. Now, we do have these editions pre-released via our YouTube hub. Online, if you do want that information, all information will be directly below. Very separately, I do host these pre-released also through the website. So if that's something that you're needing to guide you through your month by month, feel free to, again, look down in the information box directly below. Now, as usual, every month we give you the 5 big things that are coming through. And this is a very pivotal month. And it's interesting. I have really been talking about the last, I would say, 3 months being quite hectic. Usually when we come into a new year, easy, you have a few months where you're adjusting into it and we're dealing with old circumstances, generally because we have retrogrades. For those of you that don't know, I am a psychic medium. I cover astrology. I know your chakras. I know how to work with them. So you're really getting quite a bit when it does come to these pod style cast videos where I do host on various platforms. So we are going to look at the 5 big things that are coming through in July, and then we're tucking into your zodiac, both to give you the psychic energy, any tips I feel you'll need to navigate through the month at a punchy level. So stick around if that's something that you're interested in. Number 1, we are having a full moon in Capricorn happening on the 3rd of July, then into the new moon in Cancer on the 17th of July. And very interesting, last month we did have, I call it a sneaky moon, and I don't know if any others have really noticed that during the moon in Gemini it actually did dip into Cancer. So I do think this theme surrounding home, family, children, our deeper emotions was really reflected upon. And I really did warn my patrons via YouTube and the podcast to really kind of pause during the Gemini moon and not make any drastic decisions, particularly because we did have T-squares and difficult things that we really might have been prematurely making decisions with a lack of information and maybe some distorted views. So hopefully this month we're going to get another PDF. Now, the other thing is Venus has been sitting in Leo. It is going to go retrograde as of the 23rd. We'll get that shadow feeling. And over the last few years, I have noticed that generally a transit that is going to come in, we generally can feel it the month before. So a lot of you, especially because Pluto moved back into Capricorn and Venus gearing up ready to go retrograde in the house of Leo, blast from the past, reevaluating value systems, really doing a lot of coaching on YouTube with my members. So if that's something you want to come through and grab, come through, because it is going to be sitting in the house of Leo till October. We'll go direct, but I'll discuss that in a moment. The next thing is the nodes shifting. We have had the North Node in the house of Taurus and the South Node in Scorpio. And for those of you that aren't privy on astrology, don't worry, I'm going to break it down into compartments of, you know, your love zone, your romance, and all of those little juicy bits to really help you digest it in a palatable form. Now, the nodes are almost like a mathematical point of a calculation. It tends to give a signature, and we're wrapping up that cycle by July, and it is going to be shifting. And so the new signature coming in is going to be in the house of Aries and Libra, which I will discuss further. The other thing tonight is that Chiron also will be shifting retrograde. It's currently sitting in the house of Aries. It has a lot more work to do there. Chiron, both in mythology and astrology, is linked to insecurities, wounds, maybe blockages that we have coming up. And in our charts, we have 12 houses. So it will link to you individually. You can look to your birth chart. You can go to astroseek.com. Big shout out, Astroseek. And you can type in your birth date. If you don't know the time, you can press unknown, and it's going to calculate for you and show you where that falls. And that will give you a slight signature. Otherwise, feel free to book a reading. Now, with these energies, with our nodes shifting into Aries and the South Node in Libra, big differences are going to come, which I will discuss for your zodiac where it falls. Venus, as mentioned, by the 10th, by the 10th, we will have Mars move into the house of Virgo. That's really going to be where we want to intellectually know where we're pouring our energy. We could get frustrated as well, but I would say be cautious. Look at it from an intellectual point of view. It's probably a really great month to exercise, but I wouldn't go to extremes. But we will touch base on that further into this update for your zodiac sign, where I feel that energy is going to pop off. Venus from the 10th will have that shadow frequency as well. I'd probably say from the beginning of the month, really. Chiron also, you will need to care for your wellness a bit more because it's almost like our aura kind of drops down. So again, if you were exercising, for instance, really making sure you're stretching because it's in a fiery, passionate zone. Can we be a little bit more accident prone? Yes. Can we get a little bit more run down? Yes. So it's about really caring for yourself, especially during Venus retrograde. Now, with the full moon in Capricorn, it can be a shift in hierarchy, especially because Pluto last month left Aquarius again, jumped back into the house of Capricorn, which it is wrapping up its cycle. It will finalize that by 2025. So it's going to move between both signs in that wrap up effect. And it is at the critical degree. So there can be a lot of tension where it does come to this moon. In general, when we do have full moons, it's very tense. So I would say be patient during that time. Really good time to keep your fluids up, being careful of the things that you're eating, especially because Venus is retrograde, making sure you're checking the use-by dates and, maybe detoxes. Detoxes can be quite healthy, especially in the mix of both Saturn and Neptune retrograde. We can have more dream states. We might want to use pacifiers. It is usually a better time to kick habits, which is great. But again, because of these very dense scorpionic energies, this can be quite an intense time, so to speak. There can be changes of roles, changes of responsibilities, and the way we view things. Then as we move to the new moon in Cancer on the 17th of July, this will denote a fresh start, but from an emotional point of view, again, really good time to clear your home, good time to emotionally check in with yourself, to nurture yourself, to be empathetic and understanding. But again, where the positions are, we could be a little bit strict and frustrated with the nodal shifts. So for you, this full moon, what I will say is, for you, this does link to your 10th house. You can have subjects towards your purpose. This can feel like a crisis psychologically. It can be a wrap up. For some of you, it could be, okay, am I on the right path? Do I need to look back in my path? Some of you might want to return to an old place of employment. You could be second guessing your purpose. Now, the 10th house can be in relationship to a career, but it also can be almost like you're looking at it and going, is all the good in the past? Let me look deeper inside myself. Where it does come to family and your responsibilities, you could be psychologically putting a lot more pressure on yourself, especially if you're believing you have a particular role in a family, in a living situation, in a physical environment. This could also be in relation to your body and some personal decisions to do with the past. Some deep-seated wounds maybe that were there. I would say in your belief system, there could be shifts of roles. This also could be a time, either side, where you could have conflict with superiors at work. And I would say to be cautious with it, especially because Venus is retrograde. Venus is really good to re-review what you think is valued. Those contracts are better served as it goes direct. Again, we can't always do such, and there can be crosswise and association to it, maybe what our role is going to be. So if we can hold through during this and use it as an assessment, maybe go into some experimentation, be it it's casual positions or looking outside the box at the bigger picture and delay that can aid you. But for some, you can be going up the ladder or feeling as though something is coming to a close, especially in the way you are going to be really looking in at it. The other moon phase that I do want to look at for you before we get into your romance, career, and all the rest of it is the new moon in Cancer. Again, this can be this could be some paperwork that you directly are dealing with. It could be in relationship to a home. Again, there can be, for some of you, subjects to do with mother. You may also want to do a massive clean. You can be looking for a home. You may be thinking about future plans that you want to invest in a location. Where does home feel? It also could be where you are having a new chapter. This could be with family members if you had falling out with them. It can be where you're coming back together. It can be quite a social time as well. But definitely from a personal point of view, this month is going to be quite pivotal for you, for Aries, due to the fact that the North Node's shifting. So spiritually, it could be a good time to unwind, to recharge, to really sit with it for a couple of days and say, okay, what do I want to usher into my world? Is there a new routine? Are we discussing in a partnership potentially what the roles are, what I do versus what you do? That can be quite deep, but also can be something extremely exciting, especially with your plans for the future and getting things sorted. Some of you could particularly be renting homes out, moving to different locations, having a lot more visitors, having new chapters with your own inner emotions and the relationship you have to where you reside. Now, Venus. This is a great time to reevaluate life, love, contracts, partnerships, your value systems, your nutrition, the things you do and don't like. If you are a feminine energy, again, this can be something quite personal going on with you. Separately, what I can say is during this time, we can have the blast from the past. Now, this will be here till September the 4th. It will remain until October, but again, it will be going direct as of the 4th of September. So we could say it's long. If you're currently in a relationship, yet again, you can be reviewing these areas. Now, for you, not only does it relate to love in general, 7th house, marriages, contracts, partnerships, connections, friendship groups, styles of food, styles of the way you show up in your dress. Not a great time to do beauty work, especially if it's at a permanent level. Some of you can go to extremes. It's more the experimental vibration. So it's like the fake spray in color, or instead of cutting your hair all off, maybe using a wig. It's the experimentation of it to really vibe, because I can guarantee you, if you do something during the transit, you generally do tend to regret it, as it does go direct. So do things more at a temporary level than a permanent level until it goes direct in September, where you can make a more clear, open-minded kind of decision, and you're going to feel more comfortable. Now, that does come to investing in marriages, contracts, partnerships. It does hit your 5th house. Now, 5th house can be the way you spend your money on social activities, what you actually do for fun. Have you been making time for fun? Have you been making time to tap into your inner child? Children, romance, how we relate to one another, what energy and vibration we're giving versus what we're getting. And it's that renegotiation, revisiting of it. There can be a lot of moments where we do, with other planets in the mix, really feel a little bit vulnerable. But again, dive those oceans, see how it plays out for you. This also can be very good for creativity, especially for those of you, if you are running a business, reflecting, refining, changing, and then implementing those changes as it goes direct. Chiron, as I mentioned, because you're Aries and Chiron is going retrograde, you can be highly independent. We know this, and that's beautiful. Be open to allowing people in, but also this can be huge personal changes. This can be to do with nutrition, image, how you show up, attitudes, feelings, emotions, especially with the shadow sign being Libra, and the North Node actually shifting into your zodiac sign. This is going to be here for about 18 months. So I would actually predict for you, you're going to be doing two things. A is because the South Node is your Venus house collectively for Aries. Unless you pull your birth chart, you're still going to get this vibration. You're going to see what position you're taking in it, and you're going to start. Many times we kind of wonder like how the other person's feeling or how we can attract a partner. And this is going to usher in a lot of opportunities for you. Really that self-discovery, really understanding how much physical power we have and how much physical power we were maybe giving away. So healthy boundaries, determination, excitement, vitality, assertiveness. And, you know, when you're good, it's almost like they say, if mum ain't happy, ain't no one happy. And that's so slang. It shows you the first and the seventh house shows you your side of the fence and their side of the fence, but also how you feel very separate to everyone's opinions and how you can be that funky person that you need to be, or that confident, vivacious person you need to be. A lot of healing will come from this. So I do predict that the good thing is don't burn yourself out. Big changes. Rome was not built in a day. The other thing I would say is blast from the past, revisiting it, but doing it differently. Okay. Trying those things differently, knowing that you don't have to lose your identity if you're in a connection or a contract, because it's marriages, contracts, partnerships, it's personal. It's knowing who you are inside yourself versus what people's opinions are. Big changes. There can be some challenges. I do provide coaching online if you need such, and I do have a blog post that really dives deep into this if you do want to go further. Now, without further ado, let's take a look at the big key things and into your romance house for your zodiac sign. Now, the big key themes for you is the number one, big change. You can feel very anxious. You can feel as though everything is changing super quick. Some of you, I do feel psychically, you were really picking up on this last month. And I would say to be very cautious with, I would say, radical moves based on what you think is going to position you correctly on the map. I do feel a lot of you psychically have been trying to make some decisions, but you would really push the pause button for a long time. Now, I don't necessarily feel that you guys aren't moving forward. I do feel there could be some conundrums with maybe having that confidence to move forward. Last month, we had Saturn and Neptune moving retrograde, and anything that we were using maybe from a spiritual point of view to cope with stress, you could be really reflecting upon very nostalgic memories. These could be both realistic and unrealistic. You could have a lot of nervousness, but what may aid you is the pressure coming down off you during both Saturn and Neptune retrograde. I would say try to not get too much in your head, because you can be indecisive due to that. So it's going to feel as though you're pulled in two directions. So have empathy and understanding. Try to understand the moon phases so that you can be prepared for each one of them. You can refer back to this update and it's going to give you some context. Now, this doesn't mean that you're not going to have love. Singles and couples, you will have a lot of autonomy. You will have a lot of power, but it's more personal power. You're going to learn a lot about who you personally are, your style of relating to people, how people hurting you in the past did impact the way you allow friendship groups into your life. You know, are these individuals that are currently in your life still relevant, or has it been based on an unhealthy boundary and a nostalgic reason why they are remaining? I do really psychically predict you can have some huge revelations, and I think it's really popping off. I feel it started last month, but I do particularly feel it's coming through quite assertively this month. I do feel this is going to be a time of blast from the past, but I do feel you're going to realize how much power in the situation you have. And being assertive doesn't mean it's going to crumble the tower down. It means that you're attracting individuals into your life who want to work with you. I do feel you can be reconnecting, and I do feel the key to this is going to be play. Anything that's taking you from your bliss, I do particularly feel you're going to be reworking it. If you do find all you have been doing is eat, pray, repeat, there could particularly on the scale factor be an imbalance. And so it's by finding a way to receive that balance in life, be it it's happening in your career or your family zone or your personal time management. You're going to be really looking at those key areas so that you can have these doors open for more harmony and attraction in your romance house. I do feel you have lady luck there, and I do feel a lot of people are going to find you deeply charismatic. You can have a bit of fluctuations, so just be very cautious of maybe anger. And I would say by mid-month, try to not be critical on your image. A, because we'll have the nodes shifting. B, because Mars will move out of Leo and into the house of Virgo. And it can be where you emotionally feel very critical on yourself. You know, am I good enough? Am I worthy enough? You may want to get into a health kick all of a sudden, which I should really relate to inside your health zone. But again, it does tap into our romance zone and it can directly impact it. Great time for blasts from the past, renegotiations of these connections. You may need to take a little bit of time for yourself and you might feel that you have a lot on your plate, but I definitely feel romance is going to be buzzing around. If you can connect in with each other at that intimate level, I do feel really trying different things and experimenting on what worked and what didn't. I do think this can bring the romance recharging back into the relationship. Crystal wise, I would say, I don't know why I get this, but it feels like citron. It feels like a confidence building energy. So the crystal I'm picking for you could be citron. Try to use it and see if that spiritually enhances you. Very separately, I do feel from a confidence point of view, really stating those healthy things towards self so you can be open to romance. But definitely, you are going to be glowing and pregnancies are possible. So be it you're single or couple, do be very careful. This can be a high fertile time for you indeed. Nevertheless, creativity is going to be at an all-time high. Now, your career zone, like I mentioned previously through the moons, I do particularly feel you do need to rest. And I do feel if you have had a lot on your plate and it's required a lot of thinking, a lot of tuning in, we can feel a little bit sluggish. I do feel from a psychological point of view, you finding healthy outlets for your zodiac sign is going to be absolute key. So you can give the optimum to your career. I would say burnout. I would say increasing your fluid. I do particularly feel you can be extremely creative, but some of you might be looking at the day-to-day activities, what you're able to do, how much you're actually doing, and if the buck is worth the grind. You could be researching and looking at what to get more of. There could also be a clash with management, so try to be cautious of that. Some of you also could be renegotiating terms and reviewing old ways of doing things, what worked and what simply isn't. Your skills also during this time can come in quite handy. I would say by mid-month, things that we're missing, you may have a bit more context and detail, be it its paperwork, be it its documentation. But I definitely feel your assertive creative energy will aid you up until the mid-month. And then from there, like I said, resting, trying not to take things personal, looking at the detail and studying and maybe dealing with anything more so on an analytical level. I would say don't rush. And also keep that time management. Please, this month, don't leave things to the last minute. You may find that you are cramming, which is going to amplify that. But I do feel from a positive point of view, if you were looking to research and network, you may be looking to transition careers. Some of you can go up the ladder. The other thing I would say, if you could delay, you probably need to get any of that deciding done in the first 2 weeks. After that, I would more, if you could, delay making any major decisions and wait for the Venus direct. Okay, in the wealth zone, good time to update your budgets to look at what you are spending money on. And this could be anything down to luxury items, food, because we do have Venus retrograde. Also, the things you do enjoy. Some of you could be looking to join health, getting on health kicks, gyms. I do feel you're going to assess your social surroundings as well. This can be the things that you're doing with friends, getting that coffee on the run. I feel you're really going to be re-looking at those things, and it can be the smallest thing that's actually going to recharge the budget. The other thing is some of you are creating savings plans. And there is a notion for a holiday here. I do feel something to do with travel has been making you quite tired. And again, I'm looking at big term goals here. So for some of you, it can be during this time. You have these massive, great ideas, lots of clarity, maybe a very busy schedule. I think some of that's going to come through from a more logical point of view. Some of you mid-month, you may say, hey, I need to pull these strings in a bit. I need to get more structure with my approach. There also could be some negotiations. I don't know why I'm getting this, but especially in a negotiation setting, I do particularly feel you're going to have the gift of the gab. Some individuals are going to find you to be, especially on the work front, quite irreplaceable. And this could really frustrate the status quo, especially if you have bargaining powers in the mix of this, which I do directly feel you could have the gift of the gab. Now, into your health, I would highly, highly, highly advise do not burn yourself out. A is because once we do have Chiron retrograde, and it is happening to be in your zodiac, we can tend to get a bit more run down. The other thing is because we do have both Neptune and Pisces transiting over your 12th house collectively. Again, you can become quite dehydrated. Again, check it with yourself, see how you go. This can be stress, how we deal with it. Are we finding healthy outlets? Could it be a power walk? Could it be journaling, listening to guided meditation, doing yoga? And it doesn't have to be the cliche spiritual stuff. It's what you feel works for you as a personal individual. That is always the best to mind, body, soul practices, is finding what fits the you vibration. I would say also because of such, there can be some anxiousness. So, really checking in each day with yourself and saying to yourself, okay, why am I feeling anxious at this point? Is it a circumstance? Is it a person, place, or thing? Knowing where it comes from. You may go into avoidance initially. It's your body's way of saying, hey, there's a bit of pressure point over here. And it's about looking at it, finding that spiritual acceptance, and then kind of reacting to that circumstance. So it's not becoming an ongoing situation. Particularly, this could be a time with the retrogrades in your 12th house, where if you were wanting to kick particular habits, it can aid you to get that done. It's almost like by it retrograding, it's showing you and it's giving you a window of an opportunity. And some of your dreams that you're directly wanting to create, you could be very intuitive at this point. So it could be you think something and then bang, it's happening. Be open to that as a reality, but also notice this as a synchronistic frequency. Again, I did mention possible pregnancy. So I would say if that's something that you're not really ready for, be careful. You can pour it into creativity. If you are filling your time with chores and you're not feeding your soul with play, both Venus retrograde and Mars's position is going to feel as though you're spreading yourself too fine. I do feel a lot of you are going to be going through some healing. And I do feel really referring to yourself of what you feel your future is best. That is where you're going to get your access with your grounding. The other thing I would say is pay attention to any shifts in the foods you're eating and what you're attracted to. Some of you could have a bit of a funky eating situation going on, but it's more that you could suddenly feel that you're going a little bit off your food or something's not really digesting correctly. Again, this is not medical advice. This is more an interpretation based on what I'm both psychically and astrologically seeing. Check your use by dates. Venus retrograde, quite notorious for recalls. There is a potential of that. And really reevaluating. It's a good time to do an audit through your pantry. It's a good time to do an audit on what you value. Are you liking going to the gym? If you are going to the gym, what are you doing for bliss? What are you doing for play? And where do you not have that balance? And I do feel if you look at it this month from that point of view, hopefully this covers the energy. The other thing is if you do want more updates or you want me to look deeper into your chart, feel free to book a reading online. I do have the link below. If you do want to join our membership, we do have the intro video via YouTube. Otherwise, I will see you next month.